All right, good morning, everyone. Hi, my name is Christina Hernandez, and I am First Deputy Chief of Staff with the Mayor's Office. For today, I am providing support to the Educational Nominating Panel during their first public meeting. This will be the first time the panel has come back together since December of 2020, so I'm excited to have this excellent group of people join us today. I'll go through brief introductions of each of the panel members and provide them an opportunity to introduce themselves to the public as well. So we'll start here to my left. We have Dr. Barbara Moore-Williams. She's joining us once again as a panel member. She's one of the original panel members from our first iteration in 2018.
Hi, everybody. Glad to be here again. I'm Barbara Moore-Williams. I've been a long time resident, forever resident of Philadelphia, and I now am a bus teacher and all kinds of things in the school district. And I'm happy to be here to join this group and continue our work.
Thank you. We also have here a new panel member joining us, Sophie Pedro-Tulante.
Good morning. Thank you for having me here. I'm a new panel member. I'm excited to do the work. I have 3 kids in the district.
Thank you. We also have here Sean Vereen, also an original panel member.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to be here once again. My name is Sean Vereen. I'm the president of Stepping Stone Scholars. It's a college and career access program here in the city. We serve 25 million students across the city and in district schools. And I've been here for about 2 decades.
Thank you. We also have Darren Mangum, also an original member of the panel from 2018.
Good morning, I'm Darren Mangum. I'm a director of institutional giving for Philadelphia. I and my wife are parents of 3 current district students and 1 graduate, and I'm honored to be able to participate in the panel once again.
Coming around the table, we have Kimberly Pham, also an original panel member from 2018.
Good morning, everybody. Kimberly Pham here. It's an honor to be in service and to be in community with everyone. Born and raised Philly, for my people, with my people all the time, national activist and public servant. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have a new panel member here after Kim. We have Joanna Otero Cruz. We're excited to have her on the panel as well.
Good morning, Joanna Otero Cruz, and a lifetime member, a resident of Philadelphia. Happy to be here, and longtime advocate of children and families. So I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much. And we have Dr. Darren Lipscomb joining us, also a new panel member.
All right, good morning, Darren Lipscomb, Associate Vice President for Enrollment Management at Community College of Philadelphia, lifelong West Philadelphian, and just happy to have an opportunity to take part in alumni of Saw High School.
Thank you so much. And we have Ivy Olish last in the room here. We have Ivy Olish, who is an original panel member from 2018.
Thank you so much. Thrilled to be here again today. I professionally work for a national nonprofit called Playworks, which has local connections here in Philadelphia as well. And I am also the parent of a Philadelphia public school student. So very happy to be here.
Thank you. And then joining us virtually, we have Tiffany Thurman, who is a new panel member. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, everyone. Tiffany Thurman. I'm the Vice President of Government and Community Affairs for Greater Philadelphia YMCA and the wife of a career teacher who's been in his role for over 23 years. Thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here today.
Thank you. So I'll turn things over to Sophie quickly for a notice for the public.
Yes, this meeting will be recorded and will be posted online as required by city ordinance. Obviously, that's important to provide that notice. So your participation in this meeting constitutes consent to being recorded and to having that recording posted online as it were. I think the next thing we wanted to move to the first order of business for the meeting today is adopting the rules of procedure for this panel. The rules have been circulated. Copies are available to the public, and we actually urge you to go to our new website that's been put up on behalf for the panel. And so without any further, I want to move for the adoption of the rules of procedure. I formally move to do so.
I'll second that.
All those in favor of the adoption of the rules of procedure will do so by saying A.
A.
Opposed? Hearing none, and we heard you, Sermon. The The rules are adopted.
Great. Fantastic. The rules are officially adopted. We're now moving to the election of officers. As many of you are likely aware, our former chair, Wendell Pritchett, is not involved in the panel now moving forward, as his position did not permit him the ability to continue his work here. We are very thankful for his service, but we do need to now adopt a new chair for the educational nominating panel. So I'll turn it over to the panel to engage in that vote.
I'd like to move for Sozi Talante to be chairperson of the Education Nominating.
Second demo.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Would you like to accept?
Yes, I want to note for the record, I did not vote during. Sure. I do accept that, and thank you for members of the panel for entrusting me with being the chair of this panel. The next order of business is the election of vice chair. As the rules of procedure state, the vice chair is to serve in place of the chair when the chair is not available. And I want to recognize any member of the panel to move for the election of the vice chair.
Okay, I'll move for the election of Sean Vereen as vice chair of the education nominating panel.
I second that motion. All those in favor of Sean Vereen as vice chair of the educational nominating panel would do so right now by saying A.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, Sean Vereen is hereby elected the vice chair of the educational nominating panel. Mr. Vereen, this is the moment we give you the opportunity to either accept or reject the.
I accept, and I also would note for the record, I did not vote, and really excited to continue to do this and support the panel.
Congratulations, Mr. Vereen. You are now the vice chair of the educational nominating panel. And the next order of business is the election of secretary. Recognize a member of the panel to move.
Sorry, I just need to briefly interrupt here. I apologize. The former secretary is Reverend Bonnie Marta. I know that she is interested in continuing that service. She was going to be joining us via Zoom, but it does not look like she has joined us yet. So I just wanted to put that out there for the panel members to know that Reverend Bonnie has made those intentions at least clear to me. So please feel free to consider her candidacy once again as secretary of the educational nominating.
Well, in that regard, then I move for Reverend Bonnie Marta as secretary of the educational nominating panel.
Second that motion.
All members, all those in favor of Reverend Bonnie Camarda as secretary of the educational nominating panel will do so by saying A.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, Reverend Bonnie Camarda is hereby elected as the secretary of the educational nominating panel. We will assume that she accepts our offer, and she will be the secretary of this panel. And now it's appropriate for us, and we don't need to do this by vote, is to appoint Christina Hernandez, who's the first deputy chief of staff, as the assistant secretary for the panel. As the public should know, Christina Hernandez has been serving and helping the panel and we don't have a staff, so a lot of administrative functions and really helping us with this meeting. And Ms. Hernandez, are you willing and able to serve as the assistant secretary in order for us to track our meeting minutes and provide other administrative support?
I am willing and able, and at this time, I do want to give a shout out to my incredible team of the comm support, Sarah Peterson, the incredible support from the Mayor's Office of Education, from Sarah Hollister, as well as Abby Schoenfeld. So thank you all so much for helping me support the panel of their work.
And I think before we move on, you want to note that there are other members of the panel who could not be here today. I know we mentioned Reverend Bonnie Marta, but we also note that Dan Fitzpatrick is not available to be here. He's a continuing member of the panel. And Ellen Kaplan, who also is unable to make it. Ms. Hernandez, did I miss anybody else?
No, thank you.
That's everyone. The next order of business is the approval of the meeting minutes from December 16, 2020. That was the last time that the panel was able to meet. A copy of the minutes have been circulated with the panel, and the members have had an opportunity to review the minutes. Before we move, are there any questions regarding the minutes?
I will make an announcement about the minutes. We did notice that there is a typo, and thank you for the panel members who did provide that support in reviewing of the minutes. But the minutes that we did prepare in advance of this meeting, there is a typo in paragraph 8 regarding the public comment that was provided in December of 2020. So we will be making those adjustments for those typos to make sure that the minutes are an accurate reflection of what was testified to back in December of 2020. So before they're posted online, I know we had anticipated posting them online almost simultaneously to this, but we will have to make those changes before we post them online on the resources pages. Thank you for your attention.
Subject to that amendment to paragraph 8A of the December 16, 2020 meeting minutes, I move for the approval of the minutes from that meeting.
I second the motion.
With that second, all those in favor of the approval of the meetings, the minutes of the meeting December 16, 2020, so signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, the minutes from our meeting on December 16, 2020 are hereby approved. Now, this is the part where we get to provide some background information, which we think would benefit the public in determining some of the legal requirements for membership of the board, some of the duties and qualities of board members, and just also the very practical steps that we'll undertake before we have some recommendations for the mayor. And without further ado, I want to introduce our fabulous city solicitor, Diana Cortez. I can't pronounce it the way Christina does, but who will go through requirements for membership of the Board of Education, and she'll have a PowerPoint that she'll be presenting for members of the public to see.
Thank you, Susie, for being really efficient. Thank you, Mr. Talante. As Mr. Talante said, my name is Diana Cortez, City Solicitor of Philadelphia. My pronouns are she, her, and ella for the Spanish speakers. And so I'll be going over today the legal requirements for membership on the Board of Education. So what the law requires of the different nominees and sort of the legal parameters that the educational nominating panel has to abide by. So before we begin, next slide, just a few ground rules. So the law department advises city boards and panels, and that is for our charter, section 4400. You can contact me or anyone else in my department, in particular Kate Janowski, at any time if you need any type of legal advice. And this presentation is designed only as an overview. As you can imagine, the law at times can be a little bit complicated depending on the circumstances presented. So at times it does require a little bit more of an in-depth conversation. So please reach out to us. Having said that, feel free to ask me questions at any time during this presentation. So we'll jump right into the sources of our law. So we are guided by our Philadelphia Hormone Charter, sort of as the city Bible, in going over, in particular, the public education supplement, which is Article 12 of this charter, and also state law, public school code. It's in particular 24 Pennsylvania statute, section 3322 and 323. So moving on to what does the Hormone Charter require of different board nominees? So it sets out the eligibility requirements. In particular, board members should reflect diversity of backgrounds, experience, and training that is representative of the state. And in this particular section of the Hormone Charter, it goes into a list. Again, I'm sure many lawyers have said this to you all before. This list is not exhaustive. So these are just examples of different types of training or experience that I think in the past has been shown useful in the management and operations of a school board. I think as times continue, you can realize that, just looking at this list, there are some that could be added to that. For example, diversity, equity, and inclusion, making sure that we have somebody who has that type of training or experience. Also, unfortunately, with the surge in gun violence, I think public safety could also be something else that you all would want to consider. But again, it's just for you all to use as guides to provide as diverse a potential panel as possible for the mayor to consider, so that ultimately whatever board the mayor adopts or considers is as diverse as Philadelphia is, not just in background, but also in training, experience, and again, to make this the running and the operations of the school district as best as possible for our children. So the next slide would be legal requirements for board membership. So these are some things that board members need to be, and this is all regulated by the Pennsylvania statute 24 PS section 3322. Board members have to be citizens of the Commonwealth. They must be of good moral character, at least 18 years of age, and they have to have been a resident of Philadelphia for at least 1 year prior to enrollment. In 2018, our charter removed the requirement that a particular board member, potential board member, had to be registered to vote in Philadelphia. So that has been taken away, but these are still requirements. And then prohibitions. I know we all just heard some prohibitions from our ethics folks, but here's some more prohibitions, in particular for our potential board members. And this also comes from our public school code. So board members cannot hold any office or position of profit under city government. They cannot be employed by the school district of Philadelphia, and they cannot hold certain types of public office listed in state law. So again, like with any of these other criteria, if you have any questions or at times things may not be as clear, please reach out to us so that we can go through any of these. On the next slide, we have additional prohibitions. So board members cannot serve on the board of trustees of any charter school in Philadelphia, and this comes from also the public school code subsection 17-1716. They cannot have already served on the Board of Education for 3 full terms. So anyone who has served 3 full terms, as fantastic and as willing as they are, they cannot be considered again. And they cannot have been removed from public office for malfeasance. That also comes from our public school code. And on the next slide, it sort of breaks down the different types of prohibitions. So these are appointment prohibitions only. Board members are still subject to other conflicts of interest and other ethical rules that are not covered here. So this is just the first step. As you know, items 1 through 4 are curable. So for example, if there's somebody who is currently in public office that would be an integral and essential member of the board, you can approach them and see if they are willing to resign from that post, and then they would be able to be considered. However, those last two prohibitions, the fact that somebody had already served 3 full terms and had been removed from public office for some type of malfeasance, obviously there's no cure there whatsoever. Those have to be put aside.
I'm sorry to interrupt. We are getting feedback from the public that they may not be able to hear us. If you could speak a little bit louder to make sure if that's okay. Thank you so much.
Of course, that's okay. So the next, I think they wanted to hear this next part, which is the non-voting student advisory member. So the charter also provides it for a non-voting student advisory member and alternate. Now, the panel does not have to worry. They don't have to interview any students because that is left up to the Board of Education. So they don't have a role in selecting this member. Instead, it is up to the ultimate Board of Education who selects the student and sort of manages his, her, or their participation. Okay. Last one is, if anyone has any questions now or later, please feel free to reach out. And with that, I will turn it over to Otis Act.
Thank you, Solicitor Cortez. And now we will hear from Chief Education Officer Otis Hackney, who's going to go through the duties and qualities of Board of Education members. And just to be clear, for as Solicitor Cortez is giving presentation, she's describing the legal requirements for members for the Board of Education that people are considering, not for the panel. Sometimes people get that confused, but she's going through the people will be considering as candidates on the board.
Thank you, Chair Talante. Good morning, everyone. Yes, I will speak loudly. I will use my principal voice as much as possible. And so my portion of the presentation, and I think just as Chair Talante just shared, is that we are really talking about what are the qualities that you all should be looking for and your nominations for Board of Education members. So next slide, please. And by the way, I'm sorry I didn't introduce myself. I'm Otis Hackney, Chief Education Officer of City of Philadelphia. So when we think about the duties of the Board of Education members, these are the things that we would like you to consider as you speak or review individuals that are applying to be on the board. They need to have the ability to work collectively to oversee major policy, budgetary, and financial decisions for the school district. They need to appoint and evaluate a superintendent of schools. They must be able to adopt the operating budget, capital budgets, authorize receiving of funds, authorize contracts, and a very important role is authorize, renew, and revoke charter schools. Next slide. A big piece for our audience or for those that are considering being on the board is really around the expectations of board members. So I can tell you as someone who works with the board quite often, people don't always often hear these next pieces in terms of what the expectations will be, not just professionally, but also especially when I get to the next slide, just the actual commitment that is required. So, but for expectations of the board members, they must attend regular monthly meetings. They can be public action meetings, executive sessions, and even committee meetings or ad hoc committee meetings as required. They are required to meet with the mayor and city council and members of the chamber to discuss administration, management, operation, and finances of the school district at least twice per year. That is by home rule charter. They are also, in terms of understanding a budget and charter school hearings, they must attend those. Finance and issue briefings, meeting preparations, that takes about 5 hours, and then weekly school visits. The board members do, especially when schools reopen, there are visits that board members are asked to do, and then they also have to attend community meetings throughout the year. Next slide. And for this piece is really important for the nominating panel to think about as you, once again, you're interviewing and considering candidates. These are the qualities that the administration is looking for our board members. So it is a commitment to education and ensuring Philadelphia has quality schools in every neighborhood. I would think that we would all agree on that. And we would hope anyone that wants to participate in the board has that belief and commitment. Understand the challenges of urban education, collaborate with colleagues and stakeholders, the ability, which is very important, to deal with conflict, demonstrated integrity, and dedicated to all aspects of diversity and inclusion. It's great if they have previously attended a school district, a Philadelphia school district run public district school or charter school, and or has had or currently have children that attended district schools or charter schools. And we also want to make sure that with the slate that you all present us, it reflects the diversity of the city of Philadelphia as the mayor considers the panelists to move forward. Any questions from the nomination panel today?
Ms. Hackney, just one question. You had indicated that some of the time commitments here, and as I think Dr. Rubin said that clearly that's we say 5 hours of reading a month and reading preparation. My understanding is that the board members often put forth a lot more than that, right? That's sort of like.
Yes, the board members definitely put in much more than that because of just the vast number of documents that they have to consider, the resolutions that they vote on, People have to understand the district is a very large system, a very large organization. So the number of contracts or policy considerations that need to be made requires a certain level of time and diligence or time to do the diligence that's required to make really sound votes. So we want to make sure that anyone that is applying really understands what the commitment is. It is an all volunteer. It is unpaid, and so there is a ton of time that you have to be able to commit to effectively serve the board and serve the children and the school district of Philadelphia and those that work for and support the children.
Yeah, that was a lawyer trick. I knew what you were going to say, but I want to make sure that people understood that you don't get it 5 hours and 1 minute, stop. And then also I wanted you to emphasize that this is done without compensation, just so folks realize that on the front end. I know my panel members who've done this before have seen that. I think Dr. Rose, you had a question?
Yeah, does the public know how many board members we're looking for?
Right now, we have 1 seat that we're looking for. Yes, so for every seat, there are 3 nominations you need to make. So within that, that's what we're looking for right now.
Any of the members of the panel with questions? Ms. Thurman, I know you're online, so I want to make sure you're able to ask questions if you have any.
Thank you. I don't have any questions at this time.
Mr. Hackney, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And then next we're going to turn back to Ms. Hernandez, who's going to walk us through the process that this panel will undertake and some of the steps in the timelines. Ms. Hernandez.
Yes, good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for participating, and thank you for members of the public for joining us for this important meeting. Like Mr. Talante said, my name is Christina Hernandez. I am First Deputy Chief of Staff in the Mayor's Office, and I proudly assist the panel in their work as Assistant Secretary as well. So next slide, please. I'm not going to bore you by reading through this, but just so you know, we do utilize the specific charter language in guiding all of our work as it relates to the nominating panel. And this is a section that does guide your work. So please feel free to have this on hand because I think it is important and illustrative of what the work of the panel is. But I will say that the primary portions of this are that the panel comes together when a vacancy occurs and when the mayor asks that the panel be brought together. So you're being asked to be brought together to fill the vacancy now. You do have 40 days to submit at least 3 names for every open slot that is available on the Board of Education. And during those 40 days, you're tasked with the solicitation and review of members of the public so that you can come up with those names for the mayor to make his ultimate decision. Next slide, please. So for you panel members, the panel members serve in 4-year terms. Those terms are coterminous or concurrent with the mayor. So you do have 18 months or so left on your term as part of the panel. Obviously, if the next administration chooses to ask you to stay on as your work, I strongly encourage you to do so. Obviously, we have a great trust and faith in all of you to do this important work, but your commitment for now is just for the remaining 18 months, whenever vacancy does. Next slide, please. So the role of the nominating panel, as I said before, is to recruit the candidates. The vehicle with which you have recruited candidates previously in the past has been through an online as well as paper application. So your responsibility then is to review these applications and submissions, to conduct interviews of these members of the public, and ultimately make that final recommendation to the mayor of those 3 names. You have up to 40 days to complete this work. And I know, as most of you are aware, the panel members who've been involved in the past, 40 days seems like a lot of time, but I know that it can be very intense in reviewing all of the applications and really putting forth all of the work to get to these final names. So this is a good time for me to once again thank you for your prior service, thank you for your future service as well. So technically, the final date for submission of these names is Monday, May 16th of 2022. We are not officially announcing that as the date for the final meeting. I'm just saying that that is the final date for submission. Obviously, if your panel members are able to come to consensus prior to that date, we can schedule that final meeting before Monday, May 16th, if necessary. But just know that I am here to assist you in whatever you have with regards to advertising and making sure that these public meetings do move forward. And just so you know, as part of the city charter, again, as some of the old, original members of the panel might remember from 2018, is that after you do submit that list of names to the mayor, he does have the opportunity to request additional names of the panel. And then you have an additional 10 days to submit those additional names to the mayor. So there is a process by which you're providing names, you could ask for additional names, and then you provide those additional names. Thankfully, that does not occur indefinitely, so it doesn't go back and forth until final selections are chosen. So there is a very strict parameters around which how long this process continues. I will note that the mayor will select from the list of names that you have provided. You cannot select outside of the list of names that you provided. So you must select from the names provided by the nominating panel. And ultimately, those individuals are subject to city council confirmation. So after the mayor makes a selection, those individuals do have to go before city council in order to finally be confirmed in the members of the Board of Education. And that is a little bit different. That is an additional provision that was voted on by the residents of Philadelphia as part of the city charter in 2018. So that was not a part of the original iteration of the panel when we first came together in 2018. It was a requirement that was added by the board. Next slide. All right, the recruit. So your responsibility, you have all been selected and chosen your leaders in your respective fields. You've been selected and chosen because you are in prime position to be able to recruit and solicit potential candidates for the nominating panel. For the Board of Education, I apologize. So you have been selected for this primary purpose. We want you to use your contacts with your colleagues to reach out through your channels so that we have as robust an application pool as possible. We will be advertising for these applications for the next 2 weeks. I think we're actually scheduled to advertise for the next 3 weeks just to make sure that you have plenty of time in designated newspapers. I believe we're doing it, correct me if I'm wrong, as far as in the Philadelphia Tribune, as well as in Legal Intelligence for the applications. Sorry, the Daily News and the Legal Intelligence for the applications. That is certainly not the exhaustive means. We're also doing press releases from the city. We do have the Educational Nominating Panel website, the city, that has been prominently displayed. I have forwarded the press release that the city gave out to our elected officials in city council, as well as state representatives and federal partners as well. So we are doing our part to try to make sure that we get as robust an application pool as possible. I will note too here that the application is available online through the Phila.gov Educational Nominating Panel website. We also have paper applications available to the public as well. I have been emailing out PDFs of those paper applications, but if members of the public are not able to print a copy of that application, we do have the actual printed applications available at the northeast entrance of City Hall. So you'll be able to pick up an application there and also drop off your application there with the security desk. So it should be nice and simple for members of the public to be able to provide their interest in serving as members of the Board of Education. Just as a note, the application is open starting today. It is open now live on the website. And obviously the paper applications are available. I dropped them off just before coming to this meeting at the security desk in City Hall. So starting right now, you can start your application for the Board of Education. And it will be open through April 22nd. That is a Friday through midnight on April 22nd. Next slide, please. So the panel is free to review and the free to review and evaluate the application as you see fit. Obviously, from your variety of experiences and from your personal and professional capacities, you have the ability to sift through and to make determinations as to whether or not these candidates could be good for the Board of Education. So we encourage you to lean on the experience that you have both previously as members of the panel as well as in your professional capacities to ultimately make these recommendations. And as always, I am here and the team is here to provide whatever administrative needs you need. So if you need The application is provided in a different electronic format. That's what we're here for. If you need logistical support, if you need me to print everything out and have them delivered to your offices, happy to do that. That is something that service that we have provided in the past. So whatever administrative support you need, we are here for you. Next slide, please. Following the review of the applications, in the past, the panel has conducted a number of interviews with potential candidates. Again, we'll provide whatever administrative support you need. If you want to do that virtually, in person, or in a hybrid format like we're doing today, we are able and willing to provide whatever support you need in order to conduct those interviews. So please feel free to reach out to me to make sure that you have whatever support you need to complete this process. Next slide, please. So I will note this both for the panel as well as for the public. As needed, the panel may come together during the executive session to review these potential candidates, but we must also hold a second public meeting in order to actually reveal those names to the public and the final vote for those names. So the executive sessions will be reserved for the interview, they'll be reserved for opportunities for the panel to come together to discuss the potential candidates. But ultimately, that final vote, when those candidates are made public, that must be public. That is something that will be conducted during the second public meeting that we will be having towards the middle of May. Slide, please. As the vetting process, as one of the administrative services that we can provide, we are happy to provide whatever level of background vetting you would like with regard to the potential candidates you will be recommending to the mayor. So prior to your final vote, we're happy to take the information of those potential candidates, make sure that they're vetted, and make sure that they do go through some sort of background check process so that you do feel comfortable with the recommendations that you ultimately make to the mayor. And just feel comforted to know as well that after those names are provided to the mayor, there is another level of background check, as you can imagine, before the individuals actually get the position on the Board of Education. So there's a significant level of security in knowing that the individuals that you're providing are appropriate for the role. Sorry, next slide, please. This is just outlines of a timeline. So obviously today is April 4th. We're convening the nominating panel. The Board of Education application period closes April 22nd at the end of the day on that date. Then between April 23rd and May 15th, the nominating panel will review the applications, conduct interviews, come back together to discuss the potential candidates, and ultimately that final day for the second public meeting will be May 16th. But once again, if you complete your work prior to that date, we are able to have that second meeting prior to that. You just have to give us sufficient notice so we can make sure that we advertise as well the things that we need to do to make sure that the second meeting is public and is appropriately advertised pursuant to the laws. Next slide. And this I'm actually very excited to announce. As most of you all know, we do have now an educational nominating panel website. So we did not have this previously, but I'm excited to say for the public, doesn't already knows that we do have this website through the Philadelphia. This has all the information you could possibly need for the panel. So this has member bios. All of you are kind enough to provide bios about your incredible histories, work histories. So those are up alongside your photos that members of the public can get to know you. We also have minutes from all of the previous educational nominating panel meetings. So members of the public can access those as well as the immediate minutes that we'll be providing will all be posted here. We have a link to all of the prior YouTube recordings of educational nominating panel meetings. If anybody feels so inclined, you have access to those. We have the press releases about the applications. We'll have announcements for public meetings, but this is really sort of a one-stop shop for anybody who's interested in the panel work who wants to sort of gain access to that. So those are all the things that are available now. And adding today, pursuant to the direction of the panel, we'll be adding the print application as well as making live the online application, as well as descriptions about the Board of Education. And any news about the nominating panel will be coming through the panel website. I'll also note, just immediately before, I'll also note for the panel, for your awareness, this website did go live last Tuesday, March 29th. We started advertising the agenda for today's meeting on Wednesday, Thursday, March 31st. We did start advertising for this meeting, for making public the notice for this meeting, as well as Zoom links and webinars available for this meeting when this website went live last Tuesday. So we have been, done the newspaper advertisements as required by law, and making sure that everything is appropriate, both by law and by making sure that the public is actually able to access this and have enough forewarning to be able to access this. So all of this has been done on your behalf prior to joining today, but we're happy to continue to support you in whatever ways possible to make sure this is an open and transparent process. Next slide. Any questions from panel members, either present or joining us virtually? I think, is there a question in the chat? I see a bubble.
I have a question. So is the website also, are we using any other platforms to share the information about the website?
I'm not sure what you mean.
Other platforms, like linking it to LinkedIn or Twitter or?
Yes, I know that our congressperson has everything linked and available, but I know that Sarah Peterson would be better suited to provide information on that.
Christina, there is a comment or question rather in the chat.
Okay. So sorry, I'll let Sarah answer Joanna's question right now about other platforms upon which we are advertising the website, and then we'll get to the question in the chat.
Yeah, so we will plan to use social media. Partners the application process.
Thanks, Sarah.
So for those of you joining us via Zoom, in case you did not hear that, yes, we'll be providing, or rather cross-populating all of the websites with our social media toolkit, providing as much access as possible for the website. Yes, and it was all also shared in a press release last week, which I described to you earlier, that I actually shared with our elected officials, both local as well as state and federal. And it does go out to a number of education outlets, as well as members of the public who are interested in learning about what it is we're doing. I think the press releases are also available just generally on the Philadelphia website as well. So it is available for all who are interested. There's a question in the chat, or a comment in the chat. Good. Not sure. Do you want me to read it? Yes, please.
Okay, so this question is from Pat Marie. Will you be sharing the slideshow as well for those who don't have time to watch the whole reporting? Very helpful.
Absolutely. The slideshow, actually, we posted it already. We did notice the typos, so we have to take it down and repost it. So again, appreciate your patience, but yes, as part of the resources tab on the website, this presentation is available to the public as well. All right, thank you all so much. I'm going to turn things back over to our chair, Susie Talante, to finish out the proceedings for today.
Thank you, Ms. Hernandez. Before I proceed, I wanted to know and to express on behalf of the panel our thanks to the members of the panel who are no longer. That's Peter Gonzalez, who just from looking at it, who was at the panel, and Mara McCarthy, and as you mentioned, our former chair, Pritchett. You did mention that the reason Ken here is because he's running the University of Pennsylvania on an interim basis, which may keep him a little bit busy. And so we thank him for service and back to the city.
Sorry, there is one more panel member, Stephanie Nadoff, who has provided quite a bit of service in the past. It is not able to engage with our work now, but another person.
Yes, thank you. And I'd like to say that as well. The next step is for me to make a motion. I move that the educational nominating panel, and in particular, me as chair, be authorized to take the steps necessary for the panel to comply with section 12207D of the educational supplement to the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter, which, as Ms. Hernandez summarized, requires this panel to invite business, civic, professional, labor, and other organizations, as well as individuals situated or resident within the city, to submit for consideration by the panel the names of persons qualified to serve as members of the Board of Education. Any seconds? All those in favor shall state by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Hearing no opposition, the motion is adopted. I further note that the application for Board of Education has been posted on the Educational Nominating Panel's fabulous website. Additionally, the mayor's office has sent a press release highlighting the application, and any application submitted online or hard copies will be forwarded to this panel to do the important work that we're going to do. Does any members of the panel have any comments or any additional questions before we move on to the public comments? And so now we turn to a very important part of this process and this meeting, and that is by acknowledging and hearing from members of the public. We have 4 members of the public who have signed up to speak, and I would just call your name, and Zoom will do its magic and you'll be here. And just remind all the prospective speakers that you have approximately 3 minutes to share your comments to allow others to be able to have the opportunity. And we want to start off by hearing from Lisa Haver. And Ms. Haver, if you're available, you have 3 minutes to share your comments with the members of the panel, the public.
Good morning. My name is Lisa Haver. I'm with the Alliance for Philadelphia Public Schools. Nothing illustrates the need for an elected school board than this meeting. This meeting is a travesty and an insult to people of Philadelphia. On the anniversary of the loss of one of America's greatest warriors for freedom, we find ourselves at this meeting of people who were chosen by one person in private for reasons not explained to the voters. The people on this panel will be making decisions in secret about choosing public servants. The fact that the panel is meeting at 11 a.m. when students and teachers are in school and most parents and community members are at work tells us everything about how transparent this process will be. The panel posted no agenda that I could find, and I looked several times before the meeting. We have not yet been told how many vacancies they are filling. We're told at this time 1. Is somebody else resigning from the board? Why is that a secret? That should be disclosed today. The people of Philadelphia living in the birthplace of American democracy remain disenfranchised. We have no right to elect our Board of Education representatives who control a $3 billion annual budget and who make decisions about our children, our schools, and our communities. We are barred from choosing these representatives and now from knowing who they are and what they stand for until after they are appointed by the mayor. So I wonder why someone would choose to participate in this process that so completely shuts out the public. Does a panel overseen by a former city solicitor really not know the basic rules of holding public meetings? Or do the panels just have no problem ignoring those rules? How does this panel with so many civic leaders have no problem with shutting out the parents, students, teachers, principals, and community members who take part in our school communities and serve the public? Each person on this panel should make a statement explaining why you don't want to hear from the people, except for the first meeting before it happens and the last meeting after it happens. This panel is not hiring anyone. This is not a personnel matter. Board members are not employees of the district. Board members serve on the body that governs the district. The panel has no legal justification for meeting in executive session. Only reason is to conduct the choices for these government officials in as much secrecy as possible. So is everyone on this panel going to go along with the secrecy, or will someone speak on behalf of the people of the city? The people of Philadelphia must no longer be disenfranchised. We need an elected school board.
Thank you, Ms. Haver. Next, and we always appreciate your input. And the next person we have on the list is Linda Rubin. Ms. Rubin, if you're on, you can Zoom, we'll get you on and you can share your comments. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Linda Rubin. I'm a retired K-8 school counselor. I worked in one school, Fell Elementary School, for 38 years. I taught second grade at Walton Elementary School for 3 years before that. I mention my tenure at these two schools because at one time this was the norm. Teachers viewed their jobs as careers. Staying in a particular school helped us to learn about the school's students and their families, allowed school staff to bond with each other, and to become known in the neighborhood as from the school. That's less and less the case these days. Staff are retiring and worse, resigning in droves because there's more effort in overseeing them than in supporting them. The administration is more concerned about running schools like a business than an inner city public educational service. Yes, I said service to the students, families, and to the city itself. I'm here to speak today on the importance of reversing this trend with new board members who will refocus on the education of all of our students. I'm asking that you pick new board members who understand child development stages, including the fact that children do not all learn and or mature physically or emotionally at the same time. Adults who understand this look at children and learning differently. I'm continually struck by the well-known adage, all children can learn, just not in the same way or on the same day, and that the district ignores this truth. Teaching to testing schedules rule. The district lacks sufficient supports and staff to accommodate an individual student's growth, much less their sense of wonder. Once administrators at 21st Street and then 440 understood this because they rose through the ranks of working in classrooms, local school administration, and specialized services to become supports for teachers in the field. Some continued to rise in the district, even to superintendent. Unfortunately, staff and administrators at 440 with such backgrounds have been hollowed out as the school district moves to a more business-friendly model. Today's administrators can speak notably about how various teaching models are supposed to work with all the jargon, but not how they don't work with many students, and especially, what do you do then? Board members need to help rebuild such knowledge with new 440 administrators and support staff. When board members are taught by successive superintendents who adhere to this outsourcing privatized business model and judging student progress mostly on standardized tests, they're being led to believe it's best for students and staff, but it isn't. The human component matters. New board members don't need to be experts, but must come in with better knowledge of children and teen development, types of learning, and the educational supports necessary to deal with trauma so as to reconstitute a full public education support system. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rubin, and I noted that you had spoken in our December 16, 2020. I appreciate the comments you provide. Next on the list is Barbara Dowdall, and I apologize if I mispronounced your name. You have the proverbial mic.
Good morning.
Morning.
Yes, Dowdle is my name. Teaching English was my game. Starting at Vaux Junior High in 1974 and retiring from A. Philip Randolph Career Tech High School in 2010. Today's greatest puzzles, aside from determining how to nominate the best candidate to fill a vacancy on our Board of Education, are the lackadaisical effort to alert people that this meeting is even happening. The timing, weekday morning, and the speaker list limit of 10. Today's invitation is consistent with previous board nomination practices of minimal opportunities for public participation. I ask of you today that as you gather names to present to the mayor, rather than nominate by impressive resumes, that you focus on finding individuals with skill sets that the Philadelphia Board of Education so clearly needs right now. First, persons with knowledge of Pennsylvania current charter school laws, Philadelphia's charter school growth impact on the district's underfunded budget and struggling neighborhood schools. Support for the district's charter school office, and as is needed with so many school board considerations, conscientious observance of the Sunshine Act. Second, persons with demonstrated commitment to the restoration of certified teacher librarians and resources to the 213 schools bereft of them. Reach out actively to those who can meet these key needs. For the charter school expertise, I suggest Temple Law School professor Susan DeJarnett, inexplicably passed over in previous nominating lists. For confirmation of the essential need our youngsters have to be served by certified teacher librarians, speak with Deb Catchell of the Pennsylvania School Library Association, check the research, or speak with any one of the 80 advocates who met recently to plan a campaign to provide this resource in every Philadelphia public school. On this day, 54 years ago, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated in Memphis. Today, in our Philadelphia public schools, students in 213 are unlikely to see any of the books by the dozens that would provide them a rich breadth of knowledge about Dr. King, or any of the scores of other leaders, including A. Philip Randolph, namesake for Randolph Career Tech High School, and thousands of participants in the civil rights struggle, nor access to the librarians who would guide them in the research and critical thinking they would use in follow-up research. And when women's NCAA national championship coach Dawn Staley returns to her alma mater, Dobbins Career Tech High School, to celebrate this second triumph, might we dream that she would be greeted with news of her school's planned reopening of its library with a certified teacher librarian. It is not too late for this panel to open its process of candidate nomination and its meeting schedule to the public, to school families, students, staff, and community members, as you and the mayor find a board member who will set the policies that our new superintendent will be tasked to implement. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your comments. And our fourth and final speaker on the list is Akira Drake.
I'll say that Akira Drake contacted us and let us know that she was no longer available to provide in-person comment, but that they will be providing written comment. And I will, this is a good segue to mention that the written comment a link that is available on the Educational Nominating Panel page is open through the end of the application process. So I strongly encourage members of the public to submit written comments about what you believe the panel should be considering when looking at the applications, so that they can know what the public feels about the future potential board member. And I will say that I will make sure that the written comments are provided to each of the panel members for their review in concert with the applications. So I encourage Akira to complete that written comment, and any other members of the public who are interested.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Hernandez. And I want to again thank each speaker presented thoughts today. Before I proceed, I want to ensure that if there's any comments by members of the panel, I want to provide that opportunity before we're moving to adjourn.
Just one. I think in line with public comment, I do want us, if we're possible, to consider a possible meeting of this panel in the evening in a future iteration to ensure more opportunity for the public to participate.
Yes, I agree, and that's something I can assure you we'll be able to accommodate. Anybody else? No, and with that, I want to thank the members of the panel. This is the easy part. The hard work is ahead of us, and obviously Ms. Hernandez and the staff in supporting us, and of course the public, who you could tell from Dr. Lipscomb's comment that we do take it to heart, and we continue to appreciate comments and feedback and input as we go through this process. Is one of the most important things you can do is picking a board member to help lead our school district. With that, even though we have Ms. Hernandez. Question?
Sorry, I'm sorry. There is another question in the chat. I just want to make sure we get to that publicly before we.
Of course.
So Abby, if you read out the question.
Yeah, this question's from Scott Peterman. I'm sorry, can someone clarify when the window for written comment will be open?
The window for written comment will be open until April 22nd at midnight. That is the same date and time that the application window closes as well. So written comments as well as applications are open starting today through April 22nd at midnight.
Yes, and we have Dr. Williams.
I just want to acknowledge the speakers who spoke, and I agree with the night meeting for people, but I think what this board and what the suggestions have done by making available comments all the time is really important. And I want the public to know that we will look at them, I will look at them, and really take to heart what people are saying, it's not just a thing. We will live with it. I think that's a really nice step forward that we didn't have previously. So it's not just this one time that people get comment.
Yeah, and as Dr. Barbara Williams indicated, every comment you provide will be sent to every member of the panel. The good, the bad, the ugly, we get to see it all. And so what the Ms. Hernandez, her team sent it to us, there's no filtering or anything in that respect. And I also wanted to note, I know Ms. Hernandez has sort of mentioned in passing, but that the website is a big step forward where there's a one-stop shop where you have available members of public. The background of the panel members, as Ms. Haber mentioned, I serve the city solicitor. You'll see that. You also, excuse me, see past meeting minutes, more discussion about the process. So that way you don't have to hunt around and looking for it. It's in one place, and we think that's a vital step forward in terms of what the feedback was through the past iterations of this process. So we do want to note that. Before any further comments?
Just really quickly, I encourage people to apply, right? If you don't apply, we can't put you in the mix. And so as much as I know this is daunting because we talked about the commitment that it is one of the most important things that happens in this city for our kids. So please, please, please apply.
And so I would say that going on one of the public comments, I don't think the public should be discouraged if they don't have an impressive resume. And because we would like to see a robust selection of candidates for this very important position. And we would not want someone feeling like their credentials don't help them measure up to the job. And I think there's going to be a lot of people out here who CV and resume or anything may not read in the way that they can contribute to this very important role.
And that was part of the reason that we had, I never feel comfortable when lawyers give me advice in public, but we wanted to make sure people knew what the legal requirements were, but also that they're curable to the extent that you are currently in a position where you can't serve, you can resign and so forth to be able to do that. And also by having Mr. Hackney share for the public what the expectations are in terms of the work, in terms of your background. So you can have the legal requirements as a floor, but obviously you need more than that. But we wanted to share that with you all so you understand what we're going through, what we're evaluating, but also so you can determine for yourself whether or not this is something you want to do, the time commitment and also requirements. But please do not engage in self-censorship in the sense that you say, well, this isn't for me, whatever reason, and then you don't apply, you don't get considered. It's as easy as that. So we wanted to, I second what's been said here. Anyone else? No. With that, I will move to adjourn the meeting. I would still like a second so we can make it formal.
Second.
And with that, motion to adjourn. Any ayes? Any nays? Hearing none, we are hereby adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tiffany, for joining us virtually.
Question?
Oh, let me end it.